What's on your mind, Digby Scott?
What's on my mind is not much because I am on a bit of a retreat. I've come here to this place called Ahu Beach Villas in Taranaki, and it is just stunning. I'm looking out there because I'm looking straight out across this lawn, then it drops across into the ocean and there's some massive surf rolling in. It's exactly what I need. So what's on my mind is how to get not much on your mind, I think. And
ooh, meta.
Yeah, so it's kind of meta, but I came here, so as people might know that I tend to plan my year out well in advance in terms of when I'm going to take breaks. And I booked in the first 2 weeks of June back in January. I booked in these 2 weeks. I didn't quite know where I was going to go or what I was going to do. I was thinking about Fiji maybe and start another book. But then COVID happened and we couldn't leave New Zealand. So I chose here. I've been here before and it's just a restorative place really. So, and when I came, I thought, right, this week is going to be a not doing week. And you know how hard it is not to do when you've been doing for a long time? Do you know that feeling?
I couldn't even imagine it.
It's really quite challenging. So, and I sound like first world problem, right? So in fact, the intention of this week has been, right, come along and just stop. But with like a plane that's coming down to land, you don't just stop, right? You actually need a bit of runway to stop. And so I've been here since Tuesday afternoon. It's now Friday morning, and I reckon I'm just starting to slow down now. I'm pretty much in that space. Like I spent the first couple of days finishing a chapter for a book, and that was actually a really good thing to do because it kept me rolling and busy as I slowed down. And it's really interesting. Now this is the first day of nothing that I have to do, and it's kind of cool, but it's kind of weird, right? And I just wonder how often we get into this space where, you know, we go on holiday, but then we get all antsy and restless, or we're just exhausted, and it becomes this sort of, I don't know, it's a frustrating period, I think.
No, I get it. So I took the kids to Fiji back when you could still leave the country in December for a couple of weeks, which was amazing. But the 48 hours before we left, because I was going to be out of the country for, I can't remember, 5 weeks or something in the end in total. So before we left, I worked for I would say almost 48 hours straight. Like I didn't sleep for 2 nights and I just worked and worked and worked and worked. And what that meant was when it was time to get on the plane and go, I'm just thinking about what you were saying, I reckon it took me a good 3 days to just be able to stop. Like even trying to read a magazine on the plane was like, whoa! And I get that. And I'm wondering, why do we need the emptiness? Why do you feel like you're craving the emptiness? What do you need to put in it?
That's a great question.
But what do you need to put in it? Nothing.
I think, and here's my giant experiment, right? So I think that when we clear the decks, it allows stuff that's bubbling away beneath the surface to surface. And that's, I think, where creativity comes from. And if you think about what I reckon we will need right now in the world is more, not necessarily creativity per se, but creative ideas that lead to something different, right? And if we don't stop or we just keep going, it's like the old, what's that Einstein said, insanity is when you're trying to do the same thing over and over but expecting a different result. And I reckon you have to stop and not do to allow new ideas to emerge. And that's kind of been in my intent. But I've learned that you can't just stop. You can't just stop. You've actually got to slow. It's interesting though, because when I've asked clients, like execs and leaders, about this idea of being unproductive and not doing anything, the general answer is no, that's a bad place to be. And I find that kind of unsettling, actually, to hear that we always need to be on and doing and rushing. Not even rushing, but just doing.
So we have a cultural norm.
Our culture rewards it.
Yeah,
we do.
That's what I was about to say. We have a cultural norm that rewards busyness. And what's really interesting about that is that when you are senior, so when we're talking about execs, the most important components of your job don't require busyness and productivity. So Building
Correct.
meaningful relationships, having influence, innovating, those things require margin. And it's really fascinating that if you read a job description or you talk to a chief executive or a tier 2 about what their job is and what the most important things are, they will tell you that. They'll be like, it's shaping the future, it's making connections, it's talking to people outside of the industry.
Yeah.
But then you go, well, can I have a squiz at your calendar? And they go, I don't know. Because we say that's what it is, but actually there's this overwhelming momentum that just values busyness and tangible output over anything else.
And also visibility, like being around and being available. And I think that is often the challenge, that to switch off. So like, I've not checked my emails this week.
Nice.
And I have not done anything on social or anything like that. I've just gone, nah, not doing it. Now, I've put in place other mechanisms. I've got Belinda to check that.
Oh, I'm so jealous, actually. I'm just jealous.
But it's...
I can't even talk to you anymore. I'm just jealous. I'm going. No, I'm kidding.
Walk away. Walk away. So here's the thing. So the guy and David and Nuala, who run this place, I was talking to David this morning, and he said, we have a lot of guests who come up here, and one of them's this real estate guy from Wellington, and he's one of the top salespeople in Wellington in real estate. And he reckons there's about 6 of them in his cohort who are all at the top of what they do, and they take the most holidays out of everyone. And isn't that interesting? And I don't think it's because they are the top they take more holidays. I think it's because they take more holidays, they're at the top. And I reckon it's that deliberate carving out of regenerative time that enables them to perform when they come back into the game.
I'm having an internal struggle with that logic, Digby. So on the one hand, like, I've read all the stuff around margin and space and understanding the need to be generative and creative and strategic, and I believe all of that. But when you tell me the top real estate salespeople in Wellington are those who take the most holidays, I go, well, of course they are. Privileged wankers. Good for them. How nice for them to be able to take holidays when everybody else is still trying to hold on to their job. Like, I have a real internal reaction to that.
So, well, what if we didn't call it holidays and we just call it they took time out to think?
So how do you think we start to turn the tide on the shame that comes with taking space in our work life and our personal life? How do we shift the dial on that?
That's a great question. I reckon partly it's when we have something so compelling that we know we need the time to think about creating it. So I call it a big question. So if we have some sort of sense of vision or purpose that we want to create for our lives and our organisations, then it's almost like you're not doing that vision or sense of purpose any good by just being busy, right? So it's almost like you cannot not do it. Getting to that point, I think, is part of it. I think it's about courage to actually go, well, actually, I can wear whatever criticism I get because it's actually more important. It's funny though, because that is so hard. I remember taking a long weekend back when I was running Robert Walters, the recruitment company. And it was a time when we were so busy with work, and I took this time out. I took 3 days, and I came back to a shit fight. And I got in so much shit for that it scarred me for quite a long time. So that drove me to not. So there's something about being willing to position it as an important piece of work. So actually, almost positioning it as work is potentially helpful. But I think that's also a cop-out too, as I say it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it is. Okay, so we don't have all the answers, but it looks as though what's really important, particularly when you're in a senior position, is to create some space to think, to innovate and to generate. But that we have these cultural norms and ideas that actually make that really hard because we value busyness over anything else. And we feel a bit embarrassed or a bit guilty or a bit shameful about taking the space that we need. Do you take the space that you need? How do we change that conversation?